Heather, there's a seat in front of Dave. It's a nice slide there. Do either one.
Wow, this is something. I never imagined that we'd have such a turnout for senior aerobics. Awesome. All right, seriously, my name is Ted Baker. I just happen to be on the planning board, but I'll do my first disclaimer. This topic tonight has nothing to do with the planning board. I'm just here because Joelle asked me to moderate the meeting. A couple of housekeeping items first. Should we have to evacuate quickly, there's an exit where you came in and an exit in the corner. And if you have to take care of nature's needs, the restrooms are down on the main floor. Oh, and if you brought that cell phone with you, please put it on vibrate or no noise, as a courtesy to us and everybody else. We'll wait for a minute for everybody to figure out how to do that. As I said, my name is Ted Baker. Up on the head of the table here, we have Joelle Corey, who is the code enforcement officer, and she'll talk a little bit more about her 6 other hats that she wears for the town. We have Loretta Bowers, who is the town administrator, and Gary Wright, who is member of the select board. However, this is not a public hearing. This is not a town meeting. It's just so we don't have those things over our head. We also are being recorded by Western Mountain Access Television. I believe I got that correct.
Close enough.
Close enough. Unfortunately, we don't have Wi-Fi, so we are not live. Then we'd be competing with the Bethel Planning Board for coverage, right?
No, we wouldn't. We've got a, Newry has its own station.
Oh, nice.
But this will be available after the fact in a day or two when we get it posted up on the YouTube.
Yeah.
What's the YouTube address?
It's Western Hills Access Television at youtube.com.
Okay, so Western Hills Access Television, better known as what? A quick, who remembers Schoolhouse Rock from their young days? I'm a Bill, I'm just a Bill, going through Congress, right? Well, that's what we have going on here right now, is we don't have a bill, but we have a proposed ordinance. It hasn't made it out of committee yet. So after this proposed ordinance, should it go forward, it first has to be taken up by the select board. And the select board then decides whether or not to put it on the town warrant. If it makes it to the warrant, then the town legislature, better known as town meeting, will make the decision whether or not the ordinance passes and is enacted, or if it fails and it just becomes a matter of history. So we are in the very early stages. We have I should say the town has a proposed ordinance out there, which obviously gathered some interest. And we're here to talk about that, introduce it, try to answer some questions. I do ask that if you address the crowd, please state your name so that Western Hills Access Television has it on record and we know who we're talking about. Any questions so far? All right, so with that, we'll let Joelle, the code enforcement officer, introduce the proposed proposed ordinance for what we are calling the vacation rental registration ordinance.
Correct. VRO. Hi, everyone. I know probably a good half of the people in this room, professionally through my office here, or from my code enforcement positions in other towns. This has been an idea that's been floated around town for the last year or so, and it started with two things. Complaints we receive in the office. Noise, trash, loose dogs, dogs peeing in someone's flower bed, and they don't recognize the dogs, so that gets some folks excited. And then we also have our fire department. Our fire chief will come to me and say, hey, I saw bunk beds blocking 2 different egress windows, or I saw an alarm panel, but the guests didn't have the secret code when the alarm company calls you and you're supposed to be able to say what that is. They didn't have it and they didn't know it. So those are 2 things that for us become frustrating and a nuisance. It's not that we mind responding. We will respond to every single call in the fire department. But when the tenants aren't educated from their hosts, which I'm assuming most of you are here, then that becomes problematic. Because even we don't have most of your phone numbers and we can't call you either. So that's why. So I'm going to read this just so I don't forget what I'm supposed to say. I made myself a cheat sheet. This proposed ordinance has grown as a concept over the last year. We want to recognize these businesses. Short-term rentals are a business. I'm hoping you're making some money. And to promote some basic safety standards. If a 5-bedroom B&B or hotel needs state licensing, then because of lack of any registration at the state level, Newry has decided to do some basic life safety and some code parameters around short-term rentals, vacation rentals. The proposed ordinance does not cover long-term rentals or seasonal rentals. Those have habitability laws under Maine law. I'm not getting into your landlord business. If you want to rent it out for a whole year, great. All the winter, go for it. They're protected. Those folks are protected anyway under state law. So I'm not going there. We're also not limiting the number of short-term rentals. We work and live in a resort community, and we really want everyone to come and visit, enjoy their time, and not have to worry about that nuisance alarm that goes off because they burn the toast and they feel bad. And we get there and we're all in our firefighter gear and they go, we're so sorry. First of all, it's probably taken us 20, 25 minutes so they're listening to that alarm that whole time because we're a call station. We don't man our station. You all know that. And it's just time that we put some parameters around the protections for our visitors when they come here. So that's where this started. Do you want me to go into the purpose now?
Well, no, let's, why don't you talk a little more about the purposes?
Oh, that's what yeah. Okay. So, as most of you have probably already seen in the ordinance, and a lot of this is going to be repetitive if you've read the ordinance, health and safety, noise, light, trash, and parking nuisances. Sounds pretty self-explanatory. We don't mean trash at the transfer station. We mean trash, the bears and the raccoons and, blowing around the neighborhood. Infrastructure, groundwater, capacities. I can delve into these a little bit more if now is the time.
That's up to you.
I think I will. Let's go back to health and safety. I'll read down the list right from the get-go. So emergency egress. I talked about the bunk beds blocking the egress windows. Egress windows, everybody's like, oh yeah, everybody can get out that window. It's not a matter of them getting out. It's a matter of a firefighter with SCBA pack on their back trying to get in to rescue whoever's in the home. That being said, we don't always know where all the occupants are. When you're advertising a 10-bedroom home, but it sleeps 38, where are all those people? I hope they aren't 5 and 6 to a bedroom. So that's a different subject. We'll go there. Smoke and CO detectors. We were on a call just 2 weeks ago. 3 of the smoke and CO detectors in the bedrooms were pulled down off the ceiling. That could be the guest trying to silence an alarm, but it's also something that as owners and property managers, something to be cognizant of. I don't know, big bold print, say don't remove. I'm not sure how we handle all that. Fire extinguishers in the kitchen and near any, wood stoves, propane burning stoves. We don't have natural gas in the area, so, anything that is burning should probably have a fire extinguisher near it. Contact information. I want to be able to, if this passes and we have the registration forms, I want to be able to bring it up on my cell phone at a property, and I'm going to throw out a number. I don't know if it exists or not. 99 Douglas, great. I can sort by number, find that name and address, call the owner or the property manager and say, hey, we've got a problem. That's not hard, especially since we all carry something, resembles a computer in our hands nowadays. So that's one of the things I would like to be able to have. Proper 911 addressing at the street. My builders in the room. My developers that, sell a property. I want to see 911. I don't do certificate of occupancy inspections in this town. I'm not authorized to do so by the legislature at town meeting. So it's hard for me to go by and pick up on the fact that they haven't numbered their house. I'm told there's an emergency and we can't find you. Get your numbers up. Make it part of what you do as a contractor before you even leave the property. Those beautiful green with white numbers, those are our favorite. The rock that's this high and is currently buried under snow, can't see it, can't find you, can't help you. So let's make these things where they're easier for public safety to come find you when there is an emergency. That's health and safety. And your electrical panels. How much clearance do we need in front of an electrical panel? 36 inches. I don't want the mops and the spare paint and the, 18 rolls of paper towels stacked in front of it. Let's make that accessible so we can all get to it, and let's get it labeled properly. That's health and safety. Questions? Comments? Okay, I'm going to jump right through. Noise. That's your noisy tenants. They're here for a weekend. They're here for a good time, not a long time. They don't care that quiet hours end at 10 if you have it so stated in your policies. They want to have a good time. We want them to have a good time, but their neighbors next to them would really like to go to sleep. Light. The floodlights that are in your driveways might be illuminating the backyard, but where everything in Newry, just about everything in Newry is built on a hill, that floodlight also might be aiming down into the next property. Be cognizant of your neighbors and try to get that lighting so it's not so much of a bother to your neighbors. Parking nuisances. Private roads, we have a lot of. All of our subdivisions, I believe, except one, are on a private road, and even our public roads. When people pull into the property and they brought 15 friends with them from southern New England, now they don't have enough capacity in the driveway. So they're parking on the roads. That again impedes public safety vehicles. It slows down our plow trucks. If we get a beautiful 8 to 10 inches snowstorm, which is why we're all here, we love the snow, but we can't clear our roads. We can't get a safety vehicle or an ambulance up the road to help whoever may possibly need help, one of your neighbors. So let's get the parking in the driveways that they're intended for. Any questions or comments on noise, light, trash, and parking issues?
Yeah. Hi, Joelle. My name is Diana Castle.
Hi.
Thank you. And first of all, I'll say I agree with most of this. I think that it's good. Safety is very important. I've actually had an independent safety inspection of my property because I think it's very important, and we're responsible for the people who stay in their houses. My questions are more around kind of the logistics. So I don't know if you want me to give them to you now or hold them, but like when I think about things like the contact person, when I looked at the details, I think it says within 25 miles.
Yep.
So I live in the state, I'm not within 25 miles, but I want to be that contact person. I don't want somebody, you know what I mean? Like, I'm very involved in my home, and I communicate with my guests. So is there room for those types of things?
There is, that's why we're having this, because I may not, but I can guarantee, I did not think of everything. So that's why I wanted this, so would you take that note?
Because I don't want to create a middleman, right? Like, I want that call to come to me, that's very important to me. And then my other question is, and I guess, maybe it's irrelevant, but we have an HOA where my house is, which covers a lot of this stuff. So it covers trash, it covers parking, we have a sign, so then how do we need to do something else to then comply with that as well? You know what I mean?
Probably not, probably you're doing it.
Okay.
But not everybody is.
Right, okay, and I get that, and I do have another question about safety as well. So with the egress, which is very important, right, and the bunk room, how will that be established? So like I do have bunk beds.
Yeah.
It's a whole separate room with a door and all kinds of windows and everything, so there's,
Yeah.
it's all fully covered, but like, how is all of that gonna be established and enforced?
So I have nothing against bunk rooms. And I haven't got there yet, but I will when it comes to the groundwater capacities. I can get on right now on the internet and find half a dozen photos of bunk beds. Typically, there's, a double or a queen, and then either a full or a twin on top. And they have impeded the access, whether they're only this much covering the window or they're this much covering the window. I still can't get in to help anybody in there, and they can't get out. One of them was blocked completely. There wasn't anybody getting in or out. So that's the kind of thing that if I don't talk about it with you all, because I don't do occupancy inspections in this town, then maybe it's something that needs to be better advertised out there from my office.
Excuse me, Joe, before we go any further,
Okay.
I want to get back to Diane's questions, but we still got one more very important purpose
We have two.
behind the ordinance
Yep.
that I want to get out to, so people can
Okay.
get, before we start
Okay.
opening up and going into,
That was my bad. I asked for questions. Okay. The other big one for me, and this comes as an LPI, local plumbing inspector, I am the person that inspects your septic systems. When the state of Maine redrafted the laws in 2023, I have been harping on them since 2015 to include bunk rooms. Get the capacity up. I have some builders and some owners that have said, you know what, we know we're renting this. We know we're gonna have a bunk room with 8 bunks in it. So there's 16 kids. I'm assuming most of them are kids. And that's great. They pre-planned for that use. They know their system is gonna get used hard on the weekends or a whole week. So when you have a house, let's say I have a 3-bedroom home and I have a great daylight basement. I'm just gonna finish that off. I'm gonna throw in a bunch of these bunks and I'm just gonna pump my tank. Well, pumping your tank is fine and it should be done every 3 to 5 years as recommended by any septic inspector. But when you start excessively pumping part of a septic system, it works as a whole. Now you're introducing the possibility of more nitrates into the ground, which is hazardous to our groundwater that we drink, and it's hazardous to the plants and the wetlands and everything else around us. So pumping a tank, while it allows folks to use their system and really load it up with whatever they choose, because again, we're here for a good time, not a long time, we're putting everything down that drain. Let's think about what it does to the leach field that's only designed for a 3-bedroom system, but you're pumping that tank 4 times a year. So that's where I get to the groundwater, and my LPI hat, my head just gets real excited about that one. That's all from me, guys. There was no complaints about it, there has been no failures. We have people that are fairly responsible in the area, so there has been no failures of a septic system. But again, everything in Newry is on a hill, and it's only a matter of time. All right.
let me add to that.
Okay. I'll sit for a second.
One very important aspect of a subsurface wastewater disposal system is not necessarily the capacity of the leach field. It is the retention time that your waste spends in a septic tank where it's undergoing some very basic treatment. So here in Newry, most of our leach fields are in very sandy soil, great for disbursement. But if you overload a system that's designed for 8 people and you overload it with 12 or 15, it's not the leach field that's the problem, it's the retention time in that tank, in that you're not giving enough time for the waste to be processed, and the effluent that is discharged now contains unprocessed or less processed bad stuff like nitrates. So you may not stress your leach field,
Right.
but you still may be contributing to groundwater contamination because your tank is being stressed by not giving it enough time to do what it's supposed to be doing. So
Okay,
it's a two.
it's part of a system, thank you.
It's part of the system. It's not just having the blue grass growing out in your backyard that indicates you got problems. It's the fact that you are not allowing your effluent to process with sufficient amount of time before it's processed out to the leach field for disbursement to the environment.
Can you just clarify what that time is? Are you talking about a week, a year? How much time are you
The
talking?
ideal time from the EPA says a residential septic system tank should be pumped every 3 to 5 years.
Well, we're not talking about pumping. We're talking about retention time.
Right, what is that retention time?
That, I am not a civil engineer. I'm not also an expert in that. I did sleep at a Holiday Inn the other night, so I can talk about this, but I'm not an expert. Anybody remember those ads, Holiday Inn? Okay. I date myself. The standards, so if you approach for a building permit for a 3-bedroom house, and you hire a designer, certified,
Site evaluator.
site evaluator, comes in, evaluates, does the test pit, figures out what type of soil you have, figures out the leach field, but they also have tables or whatever they do. They say, okay, 3 bedrooms, that's 6 people plus 1 or 2 extras, and you need to have that much retention time, and the average flow of, what is it, to 100 and...
It's 90 gallons per day, per person, minimum 180 in the state of Maine.
So they figure out, okay, if you put in this amount of liquid, how long will it take to go through a tank of X size before it gets discharged? So the size of your septic tank is built according to, in this state, correct me if I'm wrong, the number of bedrooms that you're declaring on your
Correct.
building permit. And if you have an unfinished basement, you have 3 bedrooms upstairs, and you built to a 3-bedroom house, you have a septic tank that's designed for that much, and then you finish off your basement and you put in a bunk room with 8 bunks in there. Now, that tank is being stressed. Your retention time is not going to be adequate. And it's not a matter that, hey, I only do this 2 weekends a year. It is the fact that over that period, that week, or that weekend, you're not getting the retention time. But we're getting too much into effluent. Every family likes to talk about effluent at the dinner table, right? Okay.
Can I just add something to that? As a
Yeah, your name,
wastewater,
please, sir?
David Bartlett, as a wastewater operator at Sunday River for 22 years, I came on board in 1987, and there was no pumping done to any of the septic systems up there, to the lodges and anything. And we had to use snowmaking hoses in the summer in order to break up the sludge that was in these tanks over the years. So after that, I made sure that all the tanks at Sunday River got pumped out annually.
Good. Thank you. Anything else you want to talk about before we start opening up the floor?
No.
Diane, I'd like to go back to your first question, and that was about contact and the 25-mile distance. You state that you are in state, but you're further than 25 miles. How long would it take for you to get here if you had to come to take care of a problem on your property?
An hour and a half,
An hour and a half.
and we've done it several times.
But is that, the question then is an hour and a half response time adequate? Or and I'm just throwing this out, I don't want to get into it, I'm just throwing it out. But what if, and we do have houses that have owners in Florida.
Yeah.
What's the response response time from Florida.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think you should penalize people who aren't in Florida either. Like, you know, it's gotta be sort of like, let's make it work and not now put us in a position where we've gotta hire somebody and that takes me out of the process, where I wanna manage my property.
Point
I don't want
taken.
somebody else to.
Point taken. Before I get to you, Bruce, you had a question?
I'm good.
You good, sir?
My name is Bill Shirwagon. I live in Pennsylvania, and I do have a rental property in Newry. It takes me 8.5 hours to get here, so I don't have a quick response time. But you're not requiring that contact person to be able to respond. You're just requiring them to be able to answer a phone 24/7 and be available. And all I can see them doing is knowing who to call next to respond to a problem, which I can do in Pennsylvania ever since we've had cell phones. So I can do everything that that person that you're requiring to be a contact person to do where I live, as opposed to the 25-mile radius, which really doesn't mean anything, because you're not expecting them to have electrical talents, plumbing talents. You're just requiring them to answer a phone and probably then know who to contact next. They're not doing the job, and they're probably not responding themselves. And what if I did hire Joe Bag of Donuts to do this? That's an expense for me. And what if Joe Bag of Donuts at 2 o'clock in the morning says, I am not going to answer that phone because I'm tired? Who's responsible for the non-response? Me or him? And does he bear some responsibility? And then it still hurts me because I'm the renter and I'm the one that gets the review on Airbnb and I'm the one that needs to answer to you in the end too. So that person that I hired might not do the job at 2 or 3 in the morning. So why can't I be that first responder or person that answers that line and take that responsibility? And I have, I've been renting for 8 or 9 years. I have a list of people that do jobs for me. They plow snow, they do my plumbing. I have an electrician. I use gas people to handle a furnace issue. And I have those people and developed them over the years. I can't see where that 25-mile requirement means anything other than creating an extra layer for me to deal with.
Joel?
I'm gonna take all this in and see how I can work that differently in the ordinance if possible. If you have all those contacts, that's great. You know, if you need to call,
I need to have those
you do,
conversations.
you 100% you do. As a homeowner, all of us do, in our regular lives. I know that if I have a propane problem, I'm gonna call my propane supplier, and they're gonna come and take care of it. Some owners own enough properties, so it's automatically, it goes to a property manager. And I never even hear who the trust or the LLC of the owner of this home, I don't know who they are. I don't have a first name, I don't have a contact. Contact is crucial. And I guess if those owners that have property managers want to sign their responsibility over and say, yep, they're gonna take care of it, they're who you call at 2 in the morning, they know who to call after that, propane, electrician, whoever the case may be, great. So maybe they need to be separated in my language that I have right now in this proposed ordinance. Maybe I need to separate that and say, if you have this, it'd be nice if they were, within 25 miles, that property manager. I don't want them managed out of Portland, some realtor's office or some attorney's office out of Portland. If you are 8.5 hours away, but you're gonna answer your phone, fantastic.
Well,
I,
that's the responsibility I take for being a landlord.
right, but so the reason I want your contact information, or why
Well,
the
I don't
fire
have a problem
department.
with that.
Yeah, the fire department should actually have that. It won't be public record. It's gonna go to my firefighters, is where it's gonna go. And to me.
Anything else on contact and that
Yeah,
provision?
just to follow, just to be perfectly clear, I'm happy to give my contact information. I want it to be me. That's the point, which I think it sounds like this gentleman's saying.
Same here.
Yes.
We are responsible and want to be responsible for
Yeah.
our property, so.
Yeah,
I'll give you my name and number right now if you want.
So the point that's been made and reported is that as it's drafted right now, the contact person doesn't have any responsibility other than to answer the telephone. And you can do that whether you are here or in some country on the other side of the world for that matter. Yes, sir, your name please?
My name is Jeff Stigler. One last comment. It's more than likely it would be better to put a first name and number and a alternative contact, because if you do call Florida or Pennsylvania or down the street, if they're not going to answer their phone, you should have a secondary contact. Fair?
Yeah, I can work on that.
Got another question.
Sorry, I'm back here. I'm Kendra. I was just curious in terms of, so I do live within 25 miles, but I have no plumbing or electrical skills whatsoever. If something goes wrong, I have to make a call elsewhere. So where does the 25-mile radius come into terms? Is it more of just a responsiveness to be able to execute other resources to deal with that problem? And how is there a mile radius associated with that? Because I know if, my electrical fuse box blows, I can't do anything about it. I'm making phone calls to make sure that happens to the people that I trust. But me being 25 miles within a bubble isn't really going to solve.
Yeah, I think that's what we just already heard.
So I guess I'm trying to understand where the 25-mile.
It was completely arbitrary.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just, I'm thinking like if somebody has a property manager in Oxford Hills,
Yeah.
that's probably a 25-mile radius.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You all.
I just have a comment. The Natalie Roach with the Peaks Village HOA, and we work together with Peaks HOA as well. And I would say that we haven't yet, but the Peaks HOA has instituted this 25 miles. And they did it because of noise and trash, that they needed someone. What was happening is the board members were having to respond to noise issues, trash issues, because nobody was nearby to come and take the trash to the dump. I mean, I've literally taken trash to the dump. So I think it's that kind of nuisance stuff. So I think that we can solve it, because I agree with all of you, but I think that's where it's coming from. It's not plumbing, electrical, it's the other nuisance.
It's more of the
stuff.
nuisances
Like, like garbage all over the roads and the driveway because of bears. Who's gonna come fix, someone from North Dakota is not gonna be coming and
Okay.
picking up garbage.
All right, I think
I
we
think
got
that's
that
what's
one.
Yeah,
We got that one.
we do have that one. Thank you.
Next topic that people will.
I have a question or comment around the nuisance part of it.
Okay.
Because I've felt it in the reverse. I have a neighbor who's contacted me several times about the lights in my house, even my interior lights are on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so like several phone calls. So I do think it's important to be careful about the nuisance piece of it. Like, we even came up, we changed all of our light bulbs, like, we're trying to be good neighbors, right? We changed our motion detector to point down. I mean, there's plenty of space in between our property.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming a nuisance to me, and I'm not going to get rid of my motion detector lights outside, because that's a safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm there by myself, I want the outside lights on all night long, because I'm there by myself. So I just think that with the nuisance piece, we have to sort of be careful to also protect us as property owners. I don't know what the right answer is, but I just think we have to be careful that, because it talks in here about fines, et cetera, and it sounds also like there's gonna be a process to establish it. I don't want this person to then be empowered to say, oh, their outside light's on, I'm gonna call and lodge a complaint again, and now I'm gonna get a fine, or I'm gonna be really kind of harassed
So-
by my neighbor.
The enforcement side of any ordinance, of course, or ordinances need to be two things, defensible and enforceable. So when I get a complaint, and I'm bound to get some, I'm bound to get the ones that are gonna come in every week about specific addresses. And I've dealt with this enough now in my other towns, I'm very well versed in how this works. First of all, I'm gonna be up there. We are dark in the winter here. I can drive up there in my regular work hours and have it be pitch black at 4 o'clock. I'll see the lights. If they're from the inside, there is no complaint from me. And it's not good, and I will shut that complainant down and say, ma'am, sir, the lights are on the interior of the home. We don't have a dark sky policy in Newry. So thank you very much. I've talked to the owner. Have a good day. I'm not gonna deal with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Heather?
Question about noise complaints.
Okay.
I have neighbors that I absolutely hate. They're out here firing guns, sounds like a cannon. Who do I file? Who do I call?
You call the Oxford County Sheriff's Office because noise is a misdemeanor offense. Call them.
So call them first.
Call them first. It's not gonna do you any good to call me on a Friday night at 7 o'clock, and I'm not getting back to the office until 7 a.m.
Well, I
Monday.
mean, it's definitely a rental, does that mean that eventually it comes to you?
You can certainly let me know that you called the sheriff's office,
Okay.
and by all means do so, but there's nothing I'm gonna do about it, I'm not a policeman. I'm not donking on anyone's door at 2 a.m., so it's all of it. That is a nuisance complaint that goes to the sheriff's office.
You mentioned fines, I didn't read that, I'm sorry, I thought I read the whole thing, but.
It's in the ordinance, yeah. I won't go into that here.
All right, I put it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a question, we talked a little bit brief, again, Natalie Roach from Peace Village HOA. Occupancy limits, we're in full agreement, in fact, you're beating us to the punch. I think I agree wholeheartedly with all of it. I guess my understanding was that the bunk room was a little confusing, just the verbiage for us. And what I understand is like extra occupancy due to a bunk room is not allowed unless leach fields are expanded. That's how I'm interpreting that. Could that,
I would put
Could
the
that be the
caveat,
language?
not replace leach field with your subsurface wastewater disposal system is being expanded.
okay. But so I guess my question is, a lot of people, I mentioned this before, a lot of people have a bunk room, but because kids love bunks, sometimes extra bedrooms will go unused because they'll be sleeping in a bunk room. So it's really occupancy limits, right? That we're not going after bunk rooms. We're really we only care about occupancy.
We're talking about occupancy.
Right. So
Your leach fields are designed on the number of bedrooms, and nowhere in the subsurface wastewater rules does it say that a bedroom is two-person occupancy. It's just assumed. The best site evaluator, along with the state site evaluator in Augusta, will tell you there is no such language in that code. It's just assumed each bedroom has two people. Okay, that's great, but on the flip side of that, we have the bunk rooms, and those can get excessive. And again, it can tax your entire subsurface wastewater system. I don't know how this will flesh out in the next couple of weeks while this all plays out.
Your pun is intended.
But it is one of those things where it's like, it is abused in some situations. I have 6 emails that I received this week that there will be concern, that is the biggest concern, is the occupancy. And I get it, you're renting out your second home in most cases. So number one, it's used. You don't want a home to sit empty for 6 weeks or 6 months. It gets used. Homes were designed and built, their systems established as a used system. Drywall, flooring, plumbing, everything should be used in a home or it doesn't function right. I don't know where this will go yet. I would like to see some type of expansion if someone's going to have a advertised home with a 9-bedroom system but sleeps 38. That's excessive.
no, I'm in absolute full agreement. In fact, like I said, you're doing some of the work that we are in the midst of doing now. I just want to make sure that we don't have expanded leach fields. So I want to make sure that people with bunk rooms know that they don't get to have more people based on, So I just wanted to clarify the language.
I appreciate it, thank you. I don't have really good, clear answers for anyone tonight. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to adjust the ordinance yet. I want to hear everybody and go back and flesh
We
this
have
out.
a question from the gentleman over here.
Hey, Patrick!
Patrick, Main Mountain Homes.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't necessarily a question, it's just a comment that I think the ordinance would be unfairly targeting vacation homes where there might be private residences that might have multiple generations living in the same household, which,
Yep.
it's a weird double standard that I think we would be creating.
I have heard that. I've got several emails stating roughly the same thing. When my family of 6 shows up to come stay with me in my 2-bedroom condo, but they're only going to be here for like 4 or 5 days. They're going to go ski. We're going to have a good time. But then they're out. I own that condo or I own that home. I am the king of my castle. I am welcome to have my family and friends come. They're not paying me anything to be there. That's the difference.
Questions back there?
Sorry, I'm just curious, why is that different?
I'm sorry, I
Why
can't
is
hear
that different to the argument of?
Your name, please?
Therese Kelleher, sorry.
Okay.
I'm just curious why that is different. If I have 6 more people coming to my house for a long weekend,
versus I have 6 paying people coming? What
Because now you're a business, short-term rental is a business.
I know, but what I heard it's like the leaching field and the
Yeah.
septic, isn't
Yeah.
it the same stress, whether or not they're guests?
Well,
or
but are you
paying
gonna have those 6 friends or family members stay, coming every single weekend for 3 months? Let's hope we have a really good season and it's good for 3 months. So that's the overuse we're talking about. The one weekend where we all have every cousin we've ever met show up to go skiing because it's gonna be a power weekend. That's our family home, those are our friends and family. We're not charging them any money.
So I would
The
ask,
the hypocrisy that's been brought up by you and by Patrick is noted. There's no easy answer to that, and it's one that needs to be, I don't think we're going to solve that here. But it's been noted and will be, and it will be looked at in the review process. Question over there.
Yes, my name is Michael Magner. I just wanted to bring up, I think, just collecting contact information on actual property owners, be it seasonal or year-round, would be like really helpful for the town. It seems like a lot of things are pretty simple and can be cleaned up through communication. And I completely agree that the people that are being considered business or short-term rentals are being targeted here. I don't think we should really bite the hand that feeds us, so to speak. I think people that own, if they're lucky enough to own a second home or what you call a business, they're the king of their own castle too. And I think that they should be entitled to do what they want. And a lot of times up here, when you rent and there's extra people coming on the weekend, your property might sit vacant all week. And when you balance it out, I don't know that I don't know that it's any different than people coming up and staying in a condo that you own. I don't think just because you own the property or you rent the property, and if Joelle sells her condo or 2-bedroom condo and makes $100,000, my argument might be she's running a business over there. So I don't think this is something that we want to get involved in. And thank you for allowing the time.
As I said, the hypocrisy between what I do in my private house and what I'm doing as a vacation rental as a business is noted. It's an issue that will have to be discussed and eventually factored into, if this goes to town meeting, factored into the vote by the town person. Natalie?
I'm just going to piggyback on that. I mean, I do understand your point, although what I see too is in our environment, in our neighborhood, we have shared septic systems and we're all responsible for if we have a failure, if we have any kind of issues, we all have to pay. And so we have many people who are overloading their system. It sleeps 8, but I see 6, 7 cars. I know there's 15 people there. And we're all the neighbors are responsible for that. And I'm not renting my home, and I'm not making any money, but I have to pay for that. So that's happening too.
Okay.
Well, wait,
This young lady's had her hand up for a while.
Okay.
Hi, Stephanie Erickson. Kirk and I run Visit Sunday River. We have about 26 properties, 75% of which are affected by the occupancy by 2 to 4 occupants. It's nothing excessive, but that 2 to 4 occupants will affect the owner by about 20%. They'll lose about 20% of their rentals, and they will also have to decrease their rates because a property that sleeps 8 is not going to rent as well as a property that sleeps 10 or 12. We're not talking about a lot of people. 2 to 4 is not a lot, and it's about 20% of the rentals that we have go over what your ordinance would require. Kirk and I have been doing this since 2014, so I have the advantage of having all the data, and I ran it on our own personal vacation rental on Sunday River Road, just to not share the data of our other owners' information, and the average is 6 occupants. It's I guess, Joelle, you would probably consider it a 3-bedroom, although it does have 4 proper bedrooms.
It depends on what the septic system's
And
designed.
so your ordinance would make us go from 10 to 8, which is very restrictive and has the potential for us to lose, like I said, 20% of our annual revenue for 2 people. The longest we've ever had somebody stay, a group of 10 stay is 7 nights. Are 2 extra people for 7 nights really gonna do any difference? When the average is 6. The house, the septic and the well have less stress now as a vacation rental than if Kirk and I were to move back there with our family of 6, our dog, our cat, our cows, our chickens. It's better off now as a vacation.
Okay, point taken.
The restrictiveness of the 2 per bedroom plus 2 is very tight. I understand where you're going with the 38 people.
That's state law. It's how your septic system was designed for your home.
You just said it wasn't a law.
The issue is, in one hand, Stephanie, you have some very quantitative numbers in front of you. If I go down by 2 occupants, my revenue goes down this much. On the other hand, if you're leaching nitrates into the groundwater, we don't know that until somebody downstream ends up testing the water and it comes up high on nitrates, and then we don't know where it's coming from. So it's
That's based on the pumping?
no, that's based on the overuse of a system that was designed for one capacity and putting a higher capacity in there, and it's not an average over a week or a month or a year. It's an average over a 24-hour period.
10% of our reservations are 9 people. 10%.
Okay, we're not gonna go into exact numbers, this isn't the place for that.
It's very important for you to understand that those 2 extra people every once in a while, it's really not putting the stress on the property that you guys are making it sound to be. We've had 1 septic issue in our 14 years. Ironically, a house that's not affected by this, it's a 3-bedroom that sleeps 8. And I talked to Joel Doyen when that happened.
Okay.
And we are now on his septic plan. We use his recommended toilet paper, and we've not ever had an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments on occupancy?
So obviously a hot topic, right, and I appreciate all the consideration. It's great to know that like we can take all this back and hopefully draw something up that
Yeah.
works. I do think it's important to just kind of call out again that it would be good to maybe look at, like we're talking about, you know, my house sleeps 13. I understand that maybe it's built for a 3-bedroom house or whatever the case may be, but it's only occupied 2 nights a week for the month. So if we mathematically, like I think there might be a way to get here mathematically, right, and say, can we really say that my house is putting more stress on the septic system when there are only people there 2 nights a week?
It's
So
a question
that
of
would be-
retention time.
Yeah, so that would be one
Okay.
consideration, but then the other thing I would add is, I do think that, you know, we can't penalize me as a homeowner, because I will tell you, when it's not rented out, we built it to use ourselves too, so anytime it's not rented, like this week, I've been here all week, and it is my whole family comes, which is like 13 people there. So I just want to be perfectly clear that what we're saying is, it's not, you know, it is unfair to say to short-term rental owners, we're gonna penalize you and watch how many people you have sleeping in your house, but if I'm there on my own, I can have as many as I want. You know, so those are just, I just. think
One is a
those are some
business, one is not.
Well,
That's the
depends
difference.
on how you consider it, I guess, like, to me, it's my home.
But you're making money on the weekends, you're not there.
That could be argued, but. That's a different topic.
Hang on a second, please, sir. We had Bruce. but-
Bruce?
No?
I
Okay.
was wondering, the lady that's looking at.
Oh, the green, the blue jacket. There you go, Louise.
Who's going to keep track of the occupants? I mean, how is,
Well, I'm certainly not gonna drive by at 9 o'clock at night to every house and start counting cars.
This is kind of unrealistic.
Well, but you advertise, huh? So the advertising, we will certainly certainly be a way that I can tell, okay, they're advertising 10-bedroom house with 38, you know, they're advertising more heads.
So you're taking time from the town business to
This is town business.
get on the internet. and
This is
start
town
all
business,
of them.
yeah. I'm trying. I mean, Airbnb, Verbo, private renters, I mean, I don't know everybody. I've never met these two folks. I didn't know they did property management. I don't know them.
Let's take two more questions,
All right.
and then we're gonna move on to a different topic. Gentleman with the gray hat.
Chris Harrison, Stephanie's husband. Just a comment. I think it's not a one-size-fits-all on this occupancy.
Agreed.
I keep hearing 10 bedrooms sleeps 38. There might be like 2 properties in Newry that have that capacity. I think most of them are 3 or 4 bedrooms that sleep upwards of 12,
Yeah.
maybe 14. And they're gonna get hit the most. So I think just trying to rework that.
Agreed.
So-
Definitely needs to be reworked.
Ron?
If you've got a second, Ron Savage, Main Street Lodging and Savage Contracting, I also install septics and build houses. If you've got a business, if you've got a rental house and you're using it and renting it, it's not that expensive to add on to your leach field. You may have to add a second tank or add on to your leach field. You should want to do that. You don't want to be vacation week and have septic back up. You know, if you have a decent house, you're gonna do 5, 6, 7,000 on vacation week. You just spend the money on your leach field. You know, for the people that are complaining about, you know, 2 or 4 extra people, the system, as a septic installer, and I used to pump them with my dad years ago, it's not that big a deal to add to your system. It's not, you're not getting made to have less, you're choosing to have less because you don't have the proper system. It's not that big a deal to add on your septic system in most cases.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a new person here.
Bruce Pierce, resident. So what I'm taking in from all of this here is that we're not trying to discourage you from renting or making money or doing what you're doing, but there's a couple of major issues that are involved in here, which is life safety for the people that you're renting to, and the other one is pollution, you know, ground pollution. Are you polluting my groundwater, my drinking water, because I live above you and all this stuff is flowing downhill? So like Ron said, if you're gonna have your 3-bedroom, but now you've added the bunkhouse, now with that terminology, is that a bedroom now? The bunk room, is that the terminology a bedroom? So it all comes into terminology too, right? So that, the reality is that, and we the people that live down the low valley, we're collecting all that stuff that runs down the hill. So, and I'm concerned about that stuff affecting my groundwater, my wells, and my drinking water for my safety. And I've run into a place where I live where the uphill, because they had a sled site, affected my well, and it was full of nitrates and nitrates, which became undrinkable. So, I had to get an RO system. So, there's a couple of things here. It's like life safety and pollution. So, and I think those are big concerns that people renting need to take into effect, that if I'm going to rent you my house, yeah, it's great to have the money, but I want to make sure you're okay. And hopefully there won't be any issues in taxing the municipality, which is one in the town, but also thinking about the future and, protecting your neighbors in the environmental aspect of it.
Thank you,
All right,
Bruce.
so-
I just have one sentence.
One sentence.
One sentence. One and a half.
Not a run-on.
I agree with Ron wholeheartedly. We're not saying that you can't rent to 10 people, but you just have to expand your lease system so that it can accommodate 10. And I think that's what we're missing.
Okay, well, I'd like to move on. There's been some questions here, very well. How are you going to enact this or enforce this? So, a key element that was introduced in this is, and which I want Joel to discuss, is the affidavit process.
So, this kind of goes back to the, you are the king of your castle. I realize that just because you rent your vacation home partly, but the other part of the year, you're here to ski, you're here to hike, you're here to fish, and enjoy everything Newry has. And that's great, huh? Where was I going with this? I love it.
We're talking about affidavits and
There we go, affidavit.
how
So
the registration
the
process.
affidavit is gonna keep me out of your homes. This is a self-checklist. You're gonna tell me that your egress windows are not blocked. You're gonna tell me that your smoke detectors and your CO detectors are all up and functioning. You're also gonna tell me that your stairways are clear, your windows aren't blocked, your septic system has, been cleaned, or the tank was pumped out for a year, this year, last year. You're gonna go through all of that in this little checklist, and you're gonna sign it. You are taking responsibility for your home, which we all do. When you are making money from your home is where I feel we need to have these standards in place. As I've stated before, the Town of Newry back in 2012, when it was given the option to have the code enforcement officer inspect private homes as they were built, voted no. They do not have to comply with that part of the law. Doesn't mean builders don't have to build to the standard, they do. NFPA and the building code, IRC 2015, until April, when it goes to 21, they have to comply with that, and they all know that. I have no builders around here that don't build to that minimum code. None. I don't have any problem with my builders. So, but now you're renting that home out, and if there is a basic, 3-4 bedroom home that the septic was designed to those standards, then that's where we need to make sure that that affidavit is accurate. Yes, I am looking on the internet. We all do. It's very cool to get on Realtor.com and go, oh my God, did you see so-and-so selling their house? And we know what's moving in the area. So when the area realtors call me and say, hey, I need the septic design and the last building permits, can you send me the code file? Sure can, here you go. I know what's coming.
So this is kind of an honor system then,
It is an honor system. It's
with a twist.
Was the town certified in the property safe?
No, you are.
The honors, it's an honor system with a twist in that your affidavit has to be notarized. So it becomes a legal document.
Yep.
So should an issue arise, then the affidavit might come back to either support you or fight you.
Maggie, sorry.
Go ahead, Maggie.
I own Green Plain Bethel. Just a quick question. So, say the owners are signing this affidavit that their bunks are not, blocking their egress windows, that they have the proper smoke detectors and everything, and a guest comes in, and because people move furniture around a lot, so, and then like the worst happens, and there's a fire, and the department can't get in to do their job properly. That still falls on the owner to, so if they have that affidavit,
That is when lawyers are gonna get involved, and that's when fire investigators are gonna get involved, huh?
You put in your rental agreement, no moving furniture, so that's how you get.
Yeah, I mean, we all can protect ourselves as much as we want.
So that's on them.
Okay, hey, we all can protect ourselves as much as we want. Our insurance policies are there to protect us. I'm here to help you protect your property, but on the flip side of all of this, you're right, tenants move things. I was a landlord. I don't know how many times a month I'd have to go in and, hey, put that back up.
Let's go to the gentleman in the back there, the blue shirt, please. Your name, please?
Jared Crockett. I have several comments, but actually what I'm really going to refine it to is just procedurally. This is more of a sensing session. This isn't the actual public hearing on the.
I just wanted feedback.
Yes, as I said at the beginning, this ordinance is still in committee, it's still being drafted, it has not been presented to the select board. The select board has not said, yes, we'll put it on the warrant, and we haven't, and once the select board says, yes, we're gonna put it on the warrant, should they do that, then there will be a public hearing, which is basically the introduction of the warrant article to the town, so that when they come to town meeting, they know what they're voting on.
Okay, right. So I guess there's obviously I'm an attorney, I deal with several towns. The question is, the planning board, are they gonna have a public hearing separately, not before it goes to the warrant?
It has nothing to do with planning board.
This is not a planning board project.
So who's the sponsor of this?
The code enforcement officer.
Is this an MMA? Is this like the Bar Harbor issues? Is this one of those templates that came in from that? Or where was the inspiration for the, because I noticed some of the language is very similar to other vacation rental stuff.
The inspiration, I believe, came from the fact that our code enforcement officer is also the assistant fire chief, and is much aware of the issues that come to the town from the vacation rental business that we have.
And forgive me, what I meant to say was the drafting and the language. It looks like it was some of it was borrowed from other sources. It was all original.
No. As you know, ordinances are plagiarized every day, huh?
Yeah.
Casco, Freiburg, Bar Harbor, Rockland, Camden, Portland, Kennebunk. They were my resources.
That's what I thought.
Small
I've seen
and
it
large,
before.
huh? Yeah.
Plus, there was one out of state.
Oh, yes, there was one out of state, yeah. Ron?
So, a lot of people here have rental houses, there's a lot of rental companies that represent here. I think the town's being very fair. We manage over 100 properties in Newry, not counting condos, but individual houses. We have 24-hour coverage, we're doing pretty much everything you're asking for. I don't believe the taxpayers of Newry should be put on the hook to have the town do inspections, which you're not going to do, and it's in that somebody asks, is the town going to certify these? They shouldn't, because then it makes the town liable if something goes wrong. If somebody moves a piece of furniture, move it back. You have the pictures to refer to when you rented it on the website, move them back. This ordinance should not be an argument with anyone. If your septic's an issue, fix it. If your egress is an issue, fix it. We check everything you've got listed, our company checks. We have probably 60 people that work with us, between cleaning crews and maintenance people and laundry people. We're fortunate to make money in this town. You're not asking for restrictions, you're not trying to place restrictions. It's not going to affect the real estate market. Anyone that's complaining about this, they should care more about the safety aspects of this, because we all have a liability. If we're a rental company and somebody does burn and get killed, they're going to look to us as much as we're going to be named, there's no question. So you should be checking on these safety things. There's really nothing you're doing that should be offensive to anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
No, I was still backtracking on the process for whole nitrate and septic system. I'm just thinking about this gentleman's comment about safety and groundwater. Where did this information come up on groundwater being contaminated as far as nitrates?
That's right, it's around the EPA
Okay.
website,
'Cause
yeah.
to me, I always thought like a septic system was like a 1,000-gallon concrete tank. Once it's full, and it's gonna get full quick, you flush the toilet, you just run the water 1,000 gallons and it's full. It's always gonna stay full. There's no retention time. When you flush the toilet, the solids stay, the liquids immediately go up.
Oh, there is a retention.
So I'm trying to figure it out. I'm just for his.
The tank is designed so that if you have a drop of water that comes in on the left side, it takes so much time for that drop of water to exit on the right side.
It's got that baffle in there.
No, I know, and I was just trying to.
Yeah, that's the retention time that
For
we're
me, it
talking
didn't
about.
make sense. If it's infiltrate,
Yeah.
the tank is always full.
The tank is always full,
Where's the retention?
but
They can't.
that if you look at, if you do the ratio, and again, I'm not an engineer, he's not a civil engineer. If you do the ratio of water coming in to the capacity of the tank, and you can sit there and say, okay, you could probably say, oh, on average, it takes so long for this drop of water to get from here to there and then into the leach field. And that's your retention time.
So it's minutes.
No.
It's mixed, it depends on the use of the home.
Well, I'm just saying, what's that tank, I'm just, again, this isn't a combative question. I'm trying to figure this out in my own mind.
I could probably help better as an LPI and get the work out.
1,000-gallon concrete tank, you got inlet, outlet.
Yeah.
That outlet's always gonna be full. Water is gonna drain until it's just below.
That's correct.
Once
The
you
water
flush
that's, the water that's draining out has a different level of effluence than the water.
Trying to educate myself.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have no
Um,
idea how they work, I just wanna make
We
sure.
have about, what, at the most, an hour left.
I don't know about it.
There's no requirement for that. We have one, Stephanie?
Joelle, Ron said something about not inspecting or certifying, and you said something about not inspecting. Has that been taken out? There's a section in here that says that registering gives the code enforcement officer
I have the right to come
the
in.
right to inspect, so that We
So-
are essentially opening ourselves up
Nope.
to inspection.
If I get complaints, I have to write you a letter
Yeah.
saying, hey, this is what I got on this date from so-and-so. You've probably already heard about it from your tenant. And then I'm gonna say, can I please come in and either talk to you about your egress, this is the standard that you need to have for a window. I really, for 14 years now, have really detested my title. I don't like code enforcement. I'm not a policeman. But on the flip side, I'd rather be an educator. So while it does give me the ability to write you a letter and ask permission to come in and inspect, I have very little judicial power to come in and say, I'm inspecting. I can't.
I appreciate that. What happens when Joelle's no longer our CEO and we have somebody else who wants to inspect and we've registered and now we've opened ourselves up to.
We can certainly look at how that's worded and our attorney can help us. So it's worded in such a way that I'm only, the CEO, not Joelle, but the CEO will only come in when there is a complaint after written notice. It can be finessed.
We also have a property who we get weekly complaints about the motion lights, and that is going to end up being a complaint to you, Joelle, so
Yeah.
I hope you have fun with that. I just don't wanna have an inspection because there's motion lights.
Motion
At the
lights are part of the
property.
security
Yeah.
for all of us, whether it's from a bear or a human entity.
Yeah.
Security lights are an important part of our lives. I mean, I trip several on Vernon Street when I go home at night. They're aimed out at the road. The car goes by, they go off. Yep.
And we've modified them, but they're not good enough, and so it's just what it is.
I'll handle it. I got thick skin.
One more thing, I did read through the NFPA 101. I'm obviously not a fire chief or assistant. How far into that, you reference it in here, but how far into that are you going with egress? Is that going to include, the path to the nearest exit, sprinkler systems? We have properties who, if it had a proper sprinkler system, you said for the fire department to get in, but we, as the property manager, are really concerned about them being able to get out. So what is that covered?
Egress is covered under NFPA 101, that you want, your windows have to be clear, your doorways have to be clear. We all can drive around town and see many of our friends and neighbors that don't shovel out their front steps. They never use the front door, why shovel those, huh? Well, because you might need to get out it, huh? But now the snow's this tall. Your rental properties, all of your exits should always be clear. We talked about a path. Snow blow around the house. Give the kids a racetrack, huh? Let them go out and have fun with that snow blower and get them out.
And then what about sprinkler systems?
Sprinkler systems are required since 2009 in Newry in any of our subdivisions. So if you have an older home that wasn't required to have that installed once upon a time, there's no requirement for you to install it now.
Or if you're lucky enough to build in not in a
In a non-subdivision property, yes, then you're not required to have a sprinkler.
Just to add on to the egress, which you actually may want to look at, as it's gotten warmer here, not everybody has heat pumps, so a lot of people are doing window units, and then that potentially impacts your egress, right? If you only have one window in the room, and you put a window unit in it.
You mean an air conditioner?
I'm sorry, yeah, air conditioner, right?
Oh,
So it
that's
doesn't have-
easy. That gets pushed in real quick. Yeah, those are very easy.
But doesn't that not meet the requirement if you have?
No, it still meets the requirement.
Oh, it
The window
does?
size is still 5.7 square
Okay,
feet.
that's good to know, because I was already thinking I'm gonna have to like replace it.
No.
All right, good.
That air conditioner will get chucked out of the way real quick.
Yeah, there was something said earlier about not affecting real estate values, and I just want to make sure what's on the record. The towns that actually passed this have done it touting the success of reducing vacation rentals, and so therefore it reduces. I just want to offer that correction. I represent, more LLCs or owners than probably anybody else in the area, including some of the vacation companies that rent, and this is a factor. I understand the language, and I understand if we always had a CEO like Joelle, we'd be blessed. We won't always have Joelle, despite her youth, but the reality is that this is a big policy question that Town of Newry is going to vote on, and I want to make sure that there's going to be a whole lot of more reservations that come up at a hearing prior to the town meeting, or is it the intent just to throw this at the town meeting? Because I don't I've written a few of these, and I've opposed a few of these at the state and local levels over the years, in the last, 12 years, 15 years, when this really came into an issue. And so I'm concerned that the process is good, because this just looks like a sensing session. And you're bringing out there, and it's great. If we always had you, I wouldn't have any reservations, but there's a few problems in here. Like somehow there's an argument with charcoal, there's the restrictions on fire rings, there's files that the county is going to be required to maintain.
Well, that's been yet to be determined.
Yeah, well, that's not going to likely happen, because the county government isn't going to allocate that sort of resource. There's a lot of technical things with this, and I appreciate it. And I know these are aspirational goals, and maybe that's the direction it goes with, because the people who show up here are all responsible property managers. You've got the best of the best. And Newry doesn't have a lot of problems, because we have so much undeveloped land here. And so what it's led to is, this is a different situation than Bar Harbor, where there's confined space, limited ocean front, and so you've got to develop. You've had just an incredible amount of success in the last 5 years. And so now it seems like we're going to change things at a point when the economy is, we see what's happening with interest rates, we see what's coming. And so I'm not sure.
Jared, I'll be honest with you, I could care less. I don't care that we build homes for $100,000 or $2 million. In my narrow little box that I have to operate in, for me, the cost of a home has no bearing on what I do for a living. When it comes to life safety, when it comes to my home code, when it comes to my assistant fire chief hat, or deputy road commissioner hat, or EMA director, I work in a blessed community. And those homes, our second home property owners, I'm standing here because of you all, because otherwise we'd be Upton without Sunday River Ski Resort, right? Am I wrong? So I do want to make sure that while we do see that there's a need for this, in my head, anyway, if nobody else's, we will temper it as much as we can to make sure that we don't want to alienate our visitors. They are the reason we're here. And I absolutely love the fact that Newry is this beautiful and everybody wants to come here.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Just thinking about Jared's point that he just made, it seems he's an attorney in town, highly respected. Seems like he's got some concerns. It just kind of triggered a thought. Once this ordinance, if it's passed, how easy it sounds like this is it. That's all we're gonna do. But once it's passed, can we modify it?
Of course.
That's what I'm afraid of.
You can't. You're
Once
not
you're
resident in
gone,
Newry.
that's what I'm afraid of.
Well,
Once
that's
you're
state law.
gone,
That's state law.
that might be what you're talking about as far as values. But once this is impactful, it's there. And then when all the players are gone, it's very easy to modify. So all of a sudden, it doesn't seem real too restrictive here today. It could become very restrictive.
By vote of the townspeople.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's how easy it happens.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, yeah, it does need to make sure that, that's why I wanted this meeting.
Yep.
I wanted the feedback from stakeholders.
Elise Marshall, I noticed in the ordinance there's a mention of fees, but not an amount. And do you have an idea?
We're not that far in the process.
In the town of Newry, fees such as what would be enacted in this ordinance are the purview of the select board. The select board sets the fee, whether you're putting in a building application or a building permit or a subdivision application or perhaps a rental. So that would be under the.
We just haven't got there yet.
Yeah, no, I'm serious.
Yes, Stephanie.
Can you just briefly touch on the water and requirement, the testing?
Oh, yes, I would love to. So in this past week, I've been playing with the ordinance, but I didn't want to send out a version different to you. As I'm editing and playing with this, I've already crossed that one out.
Okay.
Because guess what's not required in your single family dwelling when you build your own private home? I don't require a water certificate.
Right.
So if you have questions about your water, starts to smell funky, Our water at the town office was cloudy, safe to drink, but it was always cloudy, so we never drank it. Good, you know, for years. It looked horrible.
And we do filtration and all that.
Yeah, no, I've already.
Thank you.
I might be jumping ahead, but I know there was mention about the fire pit area.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's still in here or not, because I didn't see it, but I had read it earlier. And when I had my safety inspection done, he was a former fire chief as well. It was very interesting, but one of the things he talked about is it's not necessarily a solo stove, right? It's where you have it. And it looked like solo stoves wouldn't be allowed with this.
Nope, solo stoves are not prohibited.
Okay, I thought it said not portable.
Portable.
You can't have, well, that's true, it is portable. Yeah, so yeah, see, this is why we're
So, yeah, and
Yeah.
he also, so that's what it was, he also said, and again, you might already know this, that it wasn't, again, the type of stove, whether it's portable, solo, et cetera, it's the height, because you don't want people to be able to trip into it, as
Right.
well as where it's placed, so
Yeah.
just might be thoughts to consider. You don't want it on a deck,
No.
and you don't want it, something low that's built, that's stone that children can trip into,
Yeah.
so.
So yeah, good point. Yes, the sole stones are movable. Your little square, I bought it on Amazon propane with the pretty rocks, you know, that's portable. But the biggest change that happened this year was the state law changed. So anybody that does have a fire ring, you know, rocks, you know, like we've all grown up with a campfire. If you have that in your backyard and it's 5 foot round, you're breaking state law. 3 foot round, 3 foot high. That's all you're allowed for an outdoor wood burning fire pit.
Okay, but I'm sorry, but the portable solos are allowed.
Well, but they're not right now,
Not the
you're
way
right,
you
they're
look.
not, huh? Because I have said no portable stove, so yeah, that will leave somebody else to
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Natalie Roach again. So we went one step further. I mentioned this earlier, that we made our issue that you can only have a solo stove, a smokeless stove, and
Right.
so we'd like to have that included because we actually went one step
Yep,
further.
I'll play with that, yep. Somebody else, yes.
Back to this, the portable stoves. I recall it said wood burning only. What about like a fixed gas?
You can have fixed
installed
gas.
safely?
Yep, yeah, you can have, again,
I thought I said wood burning only on the first draft, so.
well, that wood burning only was the ones that were, I was defining the size from. But I did not include or prohibit, I didn't do anything with the portable stove or the propane, you know, that are actually part of some hardscape. I didn't do that.
And the wording needs to be changed.
Yes, the wording needs to be
Because
changed. Yeah,
it's,
you had your hand up earlier.
Well, I just read it, so I'm from Kennybunk, and Tom and I work, Tom, Jesse, Erling, we manage Sunrise Cascades, and Marrowbrook. And we don't have a stake in rentals, and essentially, like, we have a contract for managed property, but we don't make an income off of rentals in our buildings, and we do, like, okay, back to my Kennybunk part. The reason they put that ordinance down there is because, like, everything kind of went parabolic, like he was saying about how everything's busier, and we're gonna all of a sudden squelch rentals, and it's not that you wanna squelch them, it's that you wanna make sure that our town can sustain it. Because in Kennybunk, like, you couldn't swim in Kennybunk Pond for like half of the 90s because there were too many septic leaches into the pond. So now you have nobody to rent your property. You know what I mean? So it's keeping the local, because if there's no ordinance, it's every Tom, Dick, and Harry can buy a house and rent it, and it's not you guys who are here, you know, who she's worried about. She's worried about, you know, the guy down in Massachusetts who buys 10 houses and has never even been here, you know, and there is a substantial impact, the renter, like in December, Sunrise is 64 units. Not a lot of them were rented in December. The amount of cleaning, the amount of problems, the amount of fires, the amount of burst pipes, zero. Trash. You know, all these things are exasperated by renters. You rent a house, you're gonna flush something down the toilet that you most definitely would not have done at your house. So to say that there's no impact, especially on the local community, is
so different up here.
Is not right.
Just
There is.
just for clarifications, an apartment unit in Sunrise Cascade or at White Cat, Brookside, if you rent that, this ordinance would apply to that. as well.
Exactly, right, but it's just so that it just doesn't keep going and going and going until Newry is not pristine and people do not want to come here. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a way for you to go and be an evil person and go around and charge people all these fines, but it is able to give you, you know, when you do get complaints, you are able to do something, and that's what needs to be done. Right.
In the back there, please.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm Stephanie Karabinsky Lodging. I totally understand that everything that you're trying to do is likely so that you can sleep good at night. Everything that we do is so we can also sleep good at night. I think if you called us tomorrow and in between now and when this potential ordinance passed and said, hey, can you send me a list of every property that you manage in Newry? We'd do it tomorrow for you and get it over to you. So in the interim, that might be something to think about, maybe calling the property management companies and
Problem is, I don't even know half of them.
I
didn't know these two folks at all.
I'll give you a list if you want.
Okay.
You know, I just think that might, you know, kind of quench some of
That
your...
will certainly cover a good percentage
It
of
will,
it.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot that runs on their own, but there's also a lot
The
that go in.
Airbnbs and the burglaries would be a little harder to get the information from.
Sure, yeah, so I mean, I know when we rent at Brookside, we give the Brookside property manager a list every year of the units that we're managing in Brookside. So, you know, if you wanted a list of every unit we rented in Newry, then, you know, we could do that tomorrow for you. So.
Thank you.
It's a good thing you don't know my name, because I live in Greenwood, so that means we're being well behaved.
I'm no longer your code officer
Yeah,
here.
well,
Amy.
So Amy Henley, I am a resident, but I also work for the town of Newry as a clerk. If you do own an LLC, that can be very hard to find who the actual owner of that LLC is, because your name's not on that deed. So if you do, I'd love to hear from you. I do diligently try, if people call us, to get their phone numbers. We do have caller ID to put that in there. I have problems. We have problems. Joelle comes on and says, Amy, do you have a number for me? Yep, I got that, you know? If there's a tax bill issue, I much prefer to call you than put a lien on your property. So if you have an LLC, give me your name, give me your number,
Let's
email
not go into that topic. Let's not go into that topic. We're winding down.
I just want to tell you, when your phone numbers come to the town office, we do not share them. We never give out phone numbers. We don't even give out the selectmen's phone numbers. You contact me if you want the selectmen, I get hold of them, they get hold of me. We do not give out phone numbers. Addresses, yes, because that's all public knowledge, unless you have a court thing saying no.
Yes, sir.
My name is David Walker. I have some rental properties and at this point, they're no longer short-term rentals, but I have for years done short-term rentals, so I'm well aware of the problems that can occur. I've been doing this, or been involved with short-terms before Airbnb, before Verbo, so yeah, started about anyway. The issues that come to me and is mostly noise. And I'm aware of that more in the summer than in the winter. I wonder how, and I'm also the head of our local road association, homeowners association. So I know the folks within our subdivision, and I can address that. But I'm not quite sure how people that have a noise complaint, how this ordinance might help them. I get folks, you know, in the middle of the summer, there'll be a party and it's, folks are drinking and it's 1 a.m. and they're just howling. And I don't particularly want to call the Oxford Sheriff. Is that my only tool?
It is your only tool because I'm not a police officer. So Oxford County Sheriff is gonna come, knock on the door, hey, quiet down. And they're gonna tell the occupants, if I have to come back here, you're getting a citation. It's a misdemeanor in the state. So, but the ordinance, you're right. There's more to this ordinance than just the paper you see. When you get online and you take a look at some of the area towns and what they do, they have what's called the Good Neighbor Flyer. And it is a one page. It can go in an 8.5 by 11 frame and hang on the wall. Here's what you do for this, call 911 in the event of a true emergency, and the police or I will come, one or the other. But it also goes into things like, if you have dogs, please keep them on leash. I mean, there's a leash law. Enjoy, relax, but don't have that fire in the party going until 1 a.m. That's excessive noise and your neighbors don't appreciate it. It's a little cheat sheet for the tenant when they walk through the front door. Here's the access code in case you burn toast. Skiforever.com, whatever it is. It's the Good Neighbors flyer that most of the communities that I researched, it is a wonderful tool. It's not enforceable, it's not part of the ordinance, but it really looks good hanging on the wall with just some bullet points of what the tenants need to know. It's not in a binder, 18 pages deep, along with the best pizza in town. This is what they need to know, and it hangs on the wall, 8.5 by 11. It's a really nice tool.
Do you have a copy of it?
I have a bunch of them.
I'll be seeing you tomorrow.
Good. So I'm gonna follow them
You
there.
got a follow-up, I see.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could that tool, what are the terms of that, that will be incorporated in the ordinance?
It will state, it'll be like an appendix on the back of the ordinance. It'll say, this is available on our website. You guys can print clean copies, fill in your information. If you own 18 condo units in Brookside, print 18 of them and fill in your information and what they need to know for each of the access codes. I burned the toast, what's the code I have to give when ADT calls, that type of information. It's all, I'm gonna have them available around our website. Print it off, fill it in, hang it on the wall.
All right, we got time for just one question right there.
Heather Cartney, I just want to go back to the water issue, because in reality, these people are lodging facilities, and any lodging facility has to do water testing.
But they're single-family homes first. There is a difference.
But they are a business.
But they're not licensed through the state of Maine for health and safety issues.
You bring up a shortcoming which Maine state statute is slowly, maybe, trying to get it correct. In that if you run a bed and breakfast with 5 or more rooms, you need a state permit. If you run a motel and you let rooms out, you need a state permit. If however, if you run a residential rental and a vacation rental, it's unregulated. So what Joel is trying to do is to use the concept of our home rule, which is a very guarded and relished aspect of the state of Maine, and say, let's step in until the state gets caught up. Let's use our home rule and step in and protect the town until that point.
And that brings up another point as far as the state, from previous experience with marijuana situation, maybe an appendix in your ordinance to say that if state rulings change, that you would abide by those, or, award it however.
We would adopt that language at the time the state finally does something. Just no different than the building codes for towns that don't have MUBAC or weren't required to adopt MUBAC. We say must meet the current standard of the state of Maine for NFPA and the building code. So I don't have to go back and change them every year. So yeah, that's a good idea.
One last time, Stephanie.
I'm so sorry. You said the good neighbor flyer has been removed. It's in the ordinance now.
No, I didn't say it's been removed.
Oh, you said it's not going to be required? I mean, we do this anyways, and so I just want to make sure that we're not being redundant.
No, the good flyer, if you already do one, you're fine. But I want to give an example.
Okay, so this isn't something that you are making for us.
I am making a
But you
blank.
have a copy, a template.
I am making a template. It's specific to Newry.
Yeah.
It's got the ski photo.
Yeah.
It's got old spec. It's got it's got all our things that are just us. Yeah.
Get that from you.
All right.
Eventually.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. People are getting restless. Besides the flies dropping from the wall, so are the attendees. Please, if you have comments or please forward it to Joelle. Her email is available on the website.
Excuse me. Lost?
That's what I'm all leaving.
And again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Remember, this is a work in progress. It hasn't even been presented to the select board for their review. So thank you very much. Please let us know what your thoughts are and flood her email, not mine.
Please, thank you.